a little bit of this to happen, so no worries. Okay, so what we're going to do, if you have not already, go ahead and type your first and last name into the chat box. So if you look at your screen in that top right-hand corner, you'll see a little message with lines in it. That is the chat box. So some of you guys have done it already, which is perfect. Go ahead and type your first and last name, and if you go by a different name other than what pops up. Okay, so if your name is Margaret, but you go by Mag, put that in the chat box as well, okay? So we're gonna have students kind of popping in and out as we're having a little bit of trouble with the servers. But don't worry, I'm recording this session. So if you get kicked out, just try to get logged back in whenever you can. And I'm gonna upload this session into Syllabus. I know Syllabus is down right now, but we're gonna get it figured out, okay? Today is basically just a small intro day. It's just basically welcome to the virtual program, kind of getting to know your teachers, getting to know what the course is going to look like, and getting to know any expectations that we have for you, okay? So what I want to do today is I want to show you guys our syllabus, okay? And some of you guys may have looked this over a little bit. I'm going to try to make this screen a little bit bigger for you guys to see. All right. So we're going to go over our syllabus together. That way you kind of know what to expect out of English 1. Okay, now I'm going to assign somebody to be our speaker. Okay, and so what the speaker's job is basically if there is a technology problem on my end, such as you can't hear me or something is wrong with my screen, I'm going to need that person to unmute their mic and to let me know that the class is seeing those issues, okay? So I'm gonna pick somebody in my chat box. I'm gonna just pick it at random to be my speaker. Let's see, Mason Hodge. Okay, Mason, you're gonna be my speaker for today, okay? So Mason, your job today, as we're going through the Google Meet, is just if you see that there's a problem with my audio, or if you can't see what is on my screen and what I'm talking about, unmute your mic and just let me know. Okay, so as we're going through this, if you have questions, kind of be thinking about them throughout the class, and we're gonna have a little bit of time at the end for you to put any questions that you have. It can be specific about our class, or it can be specific about the virtual learning program. We're gonna put those in the chat box, and I'm gonna try to do a quick Q&A before you guys leave for your second block, okay? So for today, this class ends at 10:45, so we have about an hour left, but we probably won't take all of that time, okay? Because I know you guys are kind of getting used to the system and things like that. Okay, so let's look at our program. So you should be seeing my screen. Okay, so let's go over the syllabus. Some of you guys may have read through the syllabus already. I see that some of you guys have already done the survey at the bottom, which is perfect. Thank you so much for getting that done ahead of time. If you haven't, don't worry. That's what you're going to do at the end of this class block today in Syllabus if it's working. Okay, so let's talk about some quick supplies for this class. The first supply that you're definitely going to need to make sure that you need is you're going to need a Chromebook. Okay, Chromebooks are very important, obviously, since you guys are doing the virtual learning program. Chromebooks are what you will submit all of your lessons on. Now, a lot of questions have come through about Google Classroom. So as of right now, high school students are not expected to have a Google Classroom for their English class. The reason why is because we are just using Syllabus for you guys to submit all your lessons. I think it'll be a lot easier than you guys having to submit something on Google Classroom and then go back over to Syllabus and submit something. And if there's any issues, there's only one server versus 2. Okay, so everything that we will do will be on Google Meet, which is what we're doing right now, or it'll be on Syllabus, okay? So some other supplies that you may need for this class is a spiral composition notebook. This is really just kind of your own personal preference. Typically, you won't turn in any paper items that you'll have to like scan in and upload. Everything I will upload for you to write on in your Chromebooks. But this is if you know that you like to take notes when you're listening to lectures and things like that. it will be helpful for students, okay? Also, with that, pens and paper. And then a personal handheld whiteboard. This is something that we will not be using for another week or two. So you have a little bit of extra time to get that done. Or to get that, you can find them at Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Walmart, Target, lots of different places. But we're going to be using those for small groups. So please make sure that you get one in the next week or two, okay? We're not starting small groups until September, but just kind of keep that we will be using those whiteboards. If you absolutely cannot find a whiteboard, a white sheet of paper will work as well. You'll just need a big pack of white sheets of paper because you're going to have to kind of write down questions and then hold them up on the camera so I can see. Okay, then with that comes expo markers and then also colored index cards, okay? So typically they come in a pack of, you can see right here, I've got a little pack. They typically come in a pack of like neon colors like this, like pink and yellow and green and orange. Just kind of get any different colors, and those will be for our Monday synchronous lessons, okay? Now, some optional supplies, and this is just supplies that I kind of recommend that students have, would be headphones with a speaker. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult if you have a lot of background noise, like an air conditioner, or if other people in your house are doing virtual learning. Sometimes headphones are very helpful. And then also, if you know that you are a student that really likes to have a handheld paper copy of a book, you can get the two texts that we'll be reading, which is Romeo and Juliet and To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, both of those books are available online, so you do not have to get the hardback paper copies, but if you're a student that likes to have that, you can get that as well, okay? All right, so let's talk about really quickly our classroom goals, okay? So we have 5 goals. Now, goals are something that can be measured, okay? So let's talk about what I kind of expect for you guys during the week, okay? So this is when we're meeting synchronously and asynchronously. So 1 is come on time and be prepared. I know for the first few weeks, logging onto Google Meets is going to have a little bit of time lapse. So I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to join a class, but be prepared once you get here, okay? L stands for learn and teach, actively participate, safety first, and then stay respectful to stay respected. Okay, so all of those kind of lead us to our classroom rules. Okay, so our classroom rules, we only have 5 of them. All right, so the one classroom rule, or the first one, is to enable your camera during lessons. Okay, so right now I think everyone has their camera from what I can see. A lot of people have them turned off right now. So what I expect for you guys when we're doing synchronous learning is to have your camera turned on. Now, the good thing is, for the most part, nobody's going to be looking at you because the speaker is kind of in the big part of the screen. So they'll just be kind of watching me. The reason why we want the camera to be enabled during lessons is because it counts as your attendance for synchronous learning, okay? So if your camera's not on, you could be hanging out downstairs watching Netflix. I would have no idea that you're not getting the instruction, okay? So make sure that your camera is turned on during class. It's just for synchronous learning. Number 2 is to keep your mic muted unless otherwise instructed. So when you guys are meeting in small groups, you guys will be kind of talking with each other where you can unmute your mics. But until that point, make sure to keep your mic muted unless I call on you specifically to answer a question. You'll notice if you've ever been on a Google Meet before, if everyone's mics are unmuted, it gets really loud and staticky. So you want to keep that away, especially for people that have headphones. It gets pretty loud, okay? Number 3 is no cell phones in class, okay? That means that I shouldn't look up and you should be texting where I can see it on the camera, okay? So we only have a small amount of time when we're meeting synchronously. You guys are doing a lot of self-paced, self-discipline stuff this year. So make sure that the time that we are together in class is very focused, honed in time, okay? So what I mean by that is please just keep your cell phones put away until the end of our synchronous class. Now, I know sometimes cell phones can be very instructive and you can use them for educational purposes, but when we are in a synchronous class, I should not see students using cell phones. Okay, so that means no FaceTime on your BFF who's doing another virtual class. Okay. Number 4 is to stay seated. So what I mean by stay seated is once we are in a virtual session, imagine that you are sitting in my classroom, okay, in my 4 walls. So you're not getting up and getting popcorn out of the microwave. You're not running to the restroom. You're not answering the door for the mailman, okay? You're not doing all of these things. You are sitting in class ready for instruction. Now, if there is an emergency, yes, obviously get up, okay? But for every single day learning, once you are seated in our synchronous class, be seated for the entire class until we log off of the Google Meet. Okay, and then the very last thing is to be respectful to everyone in the class, okay, which I've never had a problem with students being disrespectful, so I don't think that'll be an issue for you guys, okay? Okay, so consequences. So I like to do the strike through you're out policy with my students. I've done this for several years, but it just looks a little bit different this year since we're doing virtual. So strike 1 is just redirection by teacher. So I'm going to pick on somebody that I see in the chat box. So Kaylee, if I see Kaylee and Kaylee is dabbing the whole time in front of the camera or whatever, I'll be like, hey, Kaylee, let's hone that down, okay? And that'll be my redirection. Like, Kaylee, focus in. We've got a few more minutes. Let's kind of focus on what we're reading or what we're looking at that day. All right, and then strike 2 will just be either a student conference with you individually or a parent conference, okay? And this will all be via Google Meet, obviously, since we are doing everything virtually this year. But that is something that I will set up with your parent outside of class. So if you looked at the schedule, and we'll kind of talk about the schedule because I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. There's 2 times that you can meet with teachers throughout the day. You can meet with them for their 0 block hour, or you can meet with them in that office hours time. So that's where that strike 2 conference will kind of come in. Okay. And then strike 3 will be either a parent contact or a referral. Okay. So that's kind of what I expect when we're doing synchronous learning and kind of what you guys can expect out of me when we're doing these Google Meets, okay? Let's quickly talk about some policies and procedures for this year, okay? So students will meet with me typically about twice a week, okay? So every Monday and either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on your schedule. So you guys will meet with me on Tuesdays and Mondays. Students are expected to be logged into Google Meet on time to receive attendance credit. Okay, so if you are not logged into your Google Meet on Tuesday or Monday, then that means you are absent for my class that day. Now, if you reached out to me and said, hey, Miss C, I'm having technology problems, I'm going to encourage you to keep trying to get logged in, and then we can address that together. Okay, but you are expected to kind of be on your Google Meet at your designated time, especially because I have other classes as well. Okay, so right after this class, I have another virtual class. So if a student is more than 10 minutes late, they may be asked to meet with the teacher another time to receive instruction that they missed. All right, the student will participate in various activities during synchronous learning, including Nearpod activities, which you guys have already probably done in Nearpod before. Breakout small groups, and open forum discussions. They are expected to stay present during the entire synchronous class. So it's just like normal class, right? You can't just be like, oh, I think I'm done, and just click out of the Google Meet and still get attendance, right? You can't just walk out of a teacher's classroom. This is our classroom now, okay? Now, asynchronous assignments. This is something that's brand new concept to most students, okay? So let's kind of go over this into a little bit more detail. So asynchronous assignments are when you are on your computer doing a lesson that I've uploaded into Syllabus, okay? So what you'll need to do is you'll need to log into Syllabus so for you guys, we're meeting on Tuesday, so your asynchronous classes will be on Thursday for this class. So from on Thursdays, from, what's the time, 9:35 until 10:45, you're being expected to do your synchronous lesson. So your synchronous lesson can be a variety of things. It could be reading an article and answering questions. It could be finishing reading a text. It could be annotating a text. It could be watching a video. There's several different things that could be expected for you guys during an asynchronous lesson. But whatever that asynchronous lesson is, that is your attendance for the day. Okay, so what that means is if you log on and you see your asynchronous lesson for Thursday and you're like, I'll do that in a few days, it doesn't matter. Well, if you don't turn it in by that time, then you don't get attendance for that day. Okay, so asynchronous lessons are very, very important that you get them done during the class time prescribed to you. So even though we don't physically meet on a Google Meet on Thursdays, you are still expected as a student to be working on an English assignment during that time. Now, I will be available through email, through the Remind app, through Syllabus. There's lots of ways to get in touch with me. If you need help with the assignment, please reach out and let me know, and I can kind of give you a little bit of guidance, okay? So notice this right here. It says emails that are, or assignments that are emailed will not be accepted, is what that's supposed to say, unless otherwise instructed. Okay, so you can't email me an assignment. It has to be uploaded into Syllabus in order to receive credit. Okay, so here's another example. So for example, a student in first block has between 9:35 and 10:45 to submit their assignment. All right, and I will be available if you need some assistance, okay? So the Remind app, if you have not already, this is one of the only times I'm going to allow you guys to get your cell phones out during a synchronous session. But if you have not, I know several of you have already signed up for the Remind. Go ahead and sign up for our Remind for the class right now if you have not signed up. Okay, so get your cell phone. And I want you to text the number 81010, this code right here, that at VLPE, that stands for Virtual Learning Program English. You can also download the app and upload this code into it as well, okay? So there's two different ways that you can do it. All right, gonna give you guys about 30 more seconds to add this Remind. All right, so Remind is a very, very helpful resource that you can get in touch with me quickly. Sometimes it's a little faster than email. So if you have any questions about the course or about technology or something that you need to ask me, you can reach out through the Remind app or through the Remind text message. Also, I will say email is another great way to get a hold of me as well, okay? So let's talk about communication. Okay, so it says parents and students are asked to email the teacher any questions they may have throughout the semester. We'll be using various learning platforms and each have their own function. Okay, so there's 4 different platforms that you guys need to know for this English class. One is Syllabus. It's probably one of the most important. This is where you will find your class assignments, both synchronous and asynchronous. Everything will be done in Syllabus. All right, 2 is your Remind. All right, this is where class reminders and updates will come through. Skyward is where you'll have grades and parent contact. And then email for any individual communication, conferencing, intervention, tutoring requests, things like that can come through my personal email. So some of you guys have already been contacting me kind of this week and last week with some various questions. So keep doing what you're doing. And if you have any further questions, especially as we kind of get into more of the English content, please use these learning platforms to get a hold of me quickly, okay? So the learning platforms, these are the things that I want you guys to kind of familiarize yourself with. All right, so these are the tools that we'll be using to kind of enhance our learning. And these are actually the tools that I've used in the classroom for years. We're just doing it in a new way, okay? So one is Nearpod. You guys actually have a Nearpod assignment to do today. YouTube, which I'm sure you guys all know about YouTube. Edpuzzle, Google Meet, Google Slides, and Google Docs. All right, Achieve 3000, which if you're in Wilson County, if you went to a Wilson County middle school, You guys are very familiar with Achieve 3000. And then Common Lit, which is a great resource for a lot of the readings that we're going to be using this semester, okay? All right, a little bit more housekeeping. So food and drinks. I don't care if you guys have food and drinks when we're doing the synchronous learning. You guys are at home or you're at your grandparents' house or wherever you are. So you are allowed to have food and drink in the conference call. Just make sure it's not distracting. It's funny, typically I have to do a big allergy lecture, but I don't have to do that with you guys because none of you guys are in the same room. So just don't eat something you're allergic to, and then you guys are good to go. All right, so food and drink are fine. Cell phones, we've already talked about cell phones. Please keep them put away when we're doing synchronous calls. I've been a teacher for a while, so I'm pretty good at seeing if the student is texting, but I think my skills will be tested since we're doing virtual. Please keep your cell phones away. We really don't have time to get distracted when we're doing synchronous learning, so I don't think that'll be a problem for you guys. All right, makeup work and late work, very, very important. All right, so students are expected to turn assignments into Syllabus by the due date. So this week and maybe next week, Syllabus is not going to have any due dates because I know this is a big learning curve. You guys are used to going into a class building, and you're used to turning things into a basket. So the way you turn in assignments is going to look pretty different this year. Okay, so I know I'm going to have a lot of grace in the first week or two. After we kind of get into the hang of things, when there is a due date on Syllabus, that due date needs to be respected because, like I said, that becomes an attendance issue. Okay, so let me pick on one of my students. Typically, I have a roster in front of you, but now I've got my little chat box. So let's see Kelton. Okay, so let's say Kelton, he's doing his assignment, but he doesn't turn it in. He's doing his Thursday assignment, but he doesn't submit it until Saturday. Well, how do I know that he was working on it during that class time on Thursday? Okay, because that class time is dedicated for English 1. All right, so if he wants to be marked present, he has to make sure that that classwork is turned on time. Like I said, if there is an issue with technology, that's kind of its own little separate category. But if you're consistently having problems with technology, that's definitely something that we need to address because it could be a Chromebook issue or it could be a responsibility issue that we need to kind of help you work through. Okay, so once the due date has passed in Syllabus, students will be unable to add in work. Okay, this is something that I don't have control over. Once it is in Syllabus and that is the due date, I would have to resubmit. I would basically have to recreate a whole assignment for an entire class in order for you to submit your work. So you can see why respected to the due date is really, really important. Okay, extra credit opportunities. So I've offered extra credit in my class every year since I've been a teacher because I think it's really important to offer extra credit because I never want you guys to be punished for not understanding something. Okay, so if you say we did a grammar quiz and you did not understand subordinate conjunctions, then you failed the quiz. I don't want to punish you in your grade because you didn't understand the concept. That teaches me as a teacher, okay, this student, they did not understand. I need to go back and I need to touch base with them and see how I can better help them understand this topic. That is why I offer extra credit, okay? So typically in the classroom, extra credit could be found in lots of different worksheets and things like that. Extra credit online looks a little different. So extra credit is going to be doing a commonplace journal. Okay, now this is going to be submitted through Google Doc instead of being turned into a basket. All right, and it needs to be 3 pages long on writing on any subject, okay? So if you are really passionate about dance, write 3 pages about dance. If you are really passionate about Tupac's death, because students love that and think that's the coolest thing in the world, write about that. Or there's lots of different things that you can write about, okay? It just has to be 3 full pages of writing. So look at the requirements, okay? It must be done in Google Doc. The font must be 12 point Times New Roman in order to receive credit. So this is something that you will not submit into Syllabus, but you will actually email to me and put in the subject line extra credit. Now, the good thing about this is this will bring your lowest grade up to a 100. Now, this does exclude tests, okay, because tests are weighted a little bit differently. But like I said, I never want to punish you guys and make your grade suffer because you're not understanding a topic. That just teaches me as a teacher, you need some extra support. How can I help you? Okay. But that is there, especially because I know a lot of athletes, you have to have a certain grade in order to play on games and things like that. So extra credit, extremely, extremely helpful. Okay. So that is open all semester long. You can do it starting tomorrow if you want it, all the way until the very, very end of school. Okay. All right, restrooms. So bathrooms, you are just encouraged to use transition breaks between synchronous learning. So I don't know what your other teachers are planning on doing. So some teachers may be planning on meeting with you just on Mondays, and you could have the rest of, when we end at 10:45, the rest of your classes could be asynchronous. So I don't know what individual schedules look like, but you are encouraged to use the restroom in between your sessions, okay? And that kind of goes back to our rule with staying seated during our synchronous call. All right, let's talk really quickly about grading. So grading, there are 3 ways to receive a 0, and these are the only 3 ways you can get a 0 in my class. One is plagiarism. All right, which all of you guys, I'm sure, kind of know what plagiarism is. You've heard the term before. It's basically taking somebody else's work, passing it off as your own. Okay, so plagiarism. The second will be cheating. And then the third would be refusing or refraining from turning in assignments. Because if you don't turn something in, then I can't see where I need to help you grow. Okay, so if you are confused about a topic, please do not let that discourage you from at least trying on the assignment, because that's giving me a lot of information that I need to help you be successful. Okay, so if you get to a cold read, a lot of times I'm going to give you guys like a poem and ask you to answer questions over the poem that you've never seen before. And you look at those questions like, I don't know any of this, I'm just not going to do it. Well, okay, well, let's work through it. What don't you know? Okay, well, let's look at the poem. What questions are you struggling with? And that's going to teach me as a teacher where I need to specialize my instruction a little bit more. So it's really important that even if you're confused about an assignment, you still try your absolute best. Sometimes you actually know the right answer. You're just kind of afraid that it might be wrong, okay? So always make sure that you turn in assignments. I will say as well, the lowest grade you can get in this class is a 50 if you turn something in, okay? Because I said this earlier with the extra credit, I don't want to punish you guys if you don't understand a topic with a 0, because zeros are very hard in the grade book to come up from, okay? All right. So just a few more things. So we had the literature reminder. So some texts may be controversial, okay, based on the language or content. However, they've all been approved by Wilson County Schools. Okay, so if you have any concerns with the text that we will be reading, please let me know. So now that you guys are in high school, some of the texts are they're rough and they're hard to read, but that's kind of the point. Right, that's kind of the point of the text message, or sorry, our bells are going off in our school. But that's kind of the point of the text and why these authors are writing these texts for us, right? So you should be a little uncomfortable if we're reading something about domestic abuse. That's a really hard topic, right? And so you should feel a little uncomfortable. But if you are actively like, this is a very sore subject for me and I cannot handle it and I can't focus on the skill that I'm supposed to be learning based on this content because of what it's talking about, please reach out to me. Please let me know, okay? But just know that some of the texts will require you to kind of think outside of the box and really think about, why do you feel the way you feel? Like, okay, if you feel like this, if you're super against animal abuse, which hopefully everyone's against animal abuse, but if you feel really passionate about that, why? Why do you feel that way? How did you get to that conclusion? Was it something that you were born with, like at 4 years old? Did you just know? So that's something that I really try to push in this class, is I kind of push you to to figure out why you feel strongly about certain topics, okay? So if you ever have a problem with some of the content, please let me know, and I will for sure get you an alternate assignment that's still working on the same skills, but that just has a different subject area, okay? Okay, so we have office hours and intervention hours. A lot of students have asked questions about these two blocks, which it is kind of confusing because we've never had anything like this in middle school before. Okay, and now that you guys are in high school, it kind of looks a little different, okay? So I will have office hours from Tuesday till Friday from 3:05 to 3:45. This is time blocked out in my schedule where I don't have any students assigned to me. Okay, so what I'm doing during this time is I'm grading, I'm catching up on emails, and I'm doing any daily communication with you guys. If you need to get a hold of me, this is the time to do it because this is when I'm dedicated time to your class. Okay, and I'm going to kind of show you what time period that looks like in a second for your class specifically. But you are not required to be meeting with a class during this 3:05 to 3:45 time. Okay, so this is a great time to get caught up on some homework if you have any asynchronous lessons, things like that could be done during this time. Now the intervention hours. Okay, so this is that 0 block RTI time that's on everyone's schedule. This is from Tuesday through Friday from 8:45 to 9:30. Okay, so this is when teachers will ask you to sign on and do certain assignments, writing workshops, project explanations, other academic feedback, etc. You guys are actually going to be asked to log on this upcoming Thursday because we have a digital citizenship that we are required to show you guys now that you are virtual learners. It's just going to kind of teach you about online etiquette and things like that. So we are actually meeting during those office hours at RTI block this Thursday. I'm going to send out plenty of reminds to remind you guys to get logged into Google Meet again. It probably won't take the whole time, but it's something that all of Wilson County has to do. Okay, so if you have any other virtual learners in your house, they will be doing the same thing, okay? But this is a time that students can also reserve time with me individually or in small groups, okay? So if you know that you need a little bit of extra support before a test, before an essay, things like that, reach out to me by email and say, hey, Miss C, I'm really struggling with counter argument paragraphs. I'm not sure how to format it. I'm kind of confused. Can you help me? Absolutely. Let's set up a time during those intervention hours. We can get logged into a Google Meet and I can kind of walk you guys through the steps. So it's a really, really helpful tool that I hope you guys use pretty diligently, especially in the first few weeks as you guys are kind of getting your footing with the virtual learning. Okay. I do ask 24 hours in advance just because if I have another student scheduled during that time, I don't want you guys to overlap. Okay, so I've got a big calendar that I've got set up. So if you are wanting to meet, just give me a day's notice. That way I can get you logged in and make sure I have the time to focus just on what you're needing. Okay. So a parent or a student can reserve a conference time, okay? So parents can meet with me as well, or a parent can sign you up for a conference time. So if your mom says you are not getting this concept, you need to meet with a teacher, your parent can do that as well, okay? So the very last part of our signature link is this little Google Doc, okay? So what you'll do is this is actually in Syllabus. So you will click on this, click copy, and then you're gonna paste it in a new tab. Let me paste it and then share that screen with you. I know the internet's working a little bit slow today, so it may be, we have a lot of virtual learners signing on today. So let's share this tab. And what it's basically going to show you is it's going to show you guys, it's going to ask you guys to put your first and last name in there, your parents' first and last name, and any questions or comments that you guys have can be put in there as well. Okay? So that is task 1 for today. You'll be filling this out. Now let's look at the weekly update. All right. Make this a little bit smaller so it's a little easier to see. So the weekly update will be updated every Monday. Okay, so the Google class codes will stay the same. So this is your Google Meet classroom or class code for English. So if you want to pin it somewhere, if you want to copy it, if you want to put it on your desk, if you got a little area set up, you can do that. It's not going to change unless I tell you it will, but I don't suspect that it will be changing. Okay. So this will always be your Google Meet code, but it also will always be able to be found in Syllabus. So today, your tasks after we meet or after we end this call is going to be to log into Syllabus and to complete tasks 1 and 2. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second, but this is going to be your first grade, okay? Now on Thursday, this will be your first asynchronous day, which means we're not meeting on a Google Meet during our class time. So during that 9:35 to 10:45, we will not be meeting. Okay, you guys will be logging onto Syllabus and reading an article, watching a small TED Talk, and then answering questions over those two. Okay, now again, if you have questions when you're working on that assignment, please reach out. Please let me know. I'm here to help you guys be successful. I like to tell my kids, now that you're my student, you guys are mine, okay? Even if you are, I am stationed at Lebanon High School. That's where I've been teaching for the past few years. But even if you're a Mount Juliet kid or Watertown or Wilson Central or the new Green Hill kids, you guys are still my kids now. Now you're part of the family, okay? So if you have questions, please reach out. Let me know. I'm here for you guys. I want to make you guys as successful as possible, okay? So on Thursday, complete task 3, and then you're done. Now remember Thursday, we do have to get logged on during that 0 block hour, okay? So we will actually meet at 8:45 on Monday for a Google Meet. It'll be really quick, maybe 20 minutes. And then you guys are free for the rest of the day to do whatever your class schedule needs you to do, okay? So at the very bottom of this, you'll see your office hours. Okay, so since you are first block, my office hours dedicated just to you guys and second block will be on Wednesdays, okay? So that means that during that time from 3:05 to 3:45, I am logged in waiting for you guys to ask any questions. I'll be putting in grades for you guys during this time. So anything that you need, you can also reach out to me during that time. And then here is my email. Make sure that you look at the weekly update every single Monday morning when you get logged into Syllabus, because it's going to say what days we're meeting synchronously, what days we're meeting asynchronously. Right now, it's going to be pretty consistent. We're going to try to meet Monday for about, excuse me, for about 10 to 15 minutes, just to kind of check in, kind of walk you guys through what the week looks like. Then we'll meet our full synchronous lesson on Tuesdays. And then Thursdays will be your asynchronous, okay? But make sure that you get logged on to kind of see what that looks like, okay? So what I want to walk you guys through really quickly is I'm going to walk you guys through Syllabus, and it'll kind of be a test to see if Syllabus is working, okay? So if you go to WC's bookmark, go up to class link, you will see all these different apps and icons, okay? Hopefully you guys have already clicked on the Syllabus, and I'm hoping that you guys already have 8 tiles. Some of you guys may not be fully in the system. Over from Skyward, it takes about 24 hours after a schedule change for Syllabus to update. So if you don't see 8 of your classes, you will, okay? So I'm going to show you what it's going to look like for a student version and what to expect this week, okay? So let me go to student view. So this is what your class should look like for English 1. All right, so there are 4 tabs. So this will be our weekly lessons. And then these 3 tabs will always be up for you guys. All right, our Google Meet codes can be found here. If you ever need to find it really quickly, it can be found here. The virtual learning schedule, so just the class time schedules. And then the online textbook. The online textbook is really cool. because what it does is if you click on Unit 1, it'll pull you up to what the textbook would look like if it's on your desk in the classroom, okay? So there may be sometimes during your lessons when I ask you to go to the student textbook, Unit 1, and read pages 35 through 44, okay? And so you'll go to this PDF and then go to page 35, and then it's gonna pull you up there, okay? So this is where your student textbook can be found. Now, the cool thing about this textbook is if you want to download it to your device, you are more than welcome to. Sometimes it's easier, especially if you have Wi-Fi that kind of goes in and out. I would recommend downloading it. It's kind of up to you guys with whichever one you prefer, but it will always be up on Thrivist. So let's look at our lessons for this week. Okay, so we've already gone over the weekly plan. That was the little schedule that I showed you that had the breakdowns of the week. So let's look at task 1. All right, let's look at task 1. All right, so task 1, all you have to do is sign that survey that I showed you guys earlier, okay? So what that is that it's going to bring you to a link. You will click on this link, sign your name, and you are good for task 1, okay? If you go back to the week 1, let's look at task 2. All right, task 2. This is gonna lead you to a Nearpod. All right, so all you need to do for your Nearpod is click on this link. It's going to pull up a Nearpod for you to complete, and then you are done with task 2. All right, so that is your goal by the end of today to do task 1 and task 2. Now, if you're having trouble with your Thrivist, don't worry. You have until the end of the week to get those done. But it's my recommendation that if you can get into Thrivist, go ahead and get those completed, okay? And then task 3 is what you will complete this week on that Thursday meeting at 9:35 when we are not meeting through Google Meet and you are just logging into Thrivist on your own, okay? So I've uploaded 2 links for you. The first link is a YouTube video, and then the second link is an article. You're to watch the video, read the article, and then once you've done that, you're going to go to task 3, part 2. Now for task 3, part 2, I'm going to show you what that looks like. So for task 3, part 2, it's going to ask you, I think I've asked 7 questions, 6 or 7 questions. Yeah, 8 questions. So what you're going to do is these are the questions that I want you to answer. So the first 4 are talking about the video that you're going to watch, and then the last 4 are talking specifically about the article. So what you'll do is you'll scroll down. I've already kind of submitted this as an example. You will click Start Assignment. All right, so where it says Resubmit Assignment, you'll click this. However, what I recommend for students is to copy and paste this into the assignment, because what's going to happen is if I just click Start Assignment, it's going to pull up this empty box right here. Okay, and that can be kind of confusing. So if you paste, do Control V. There's my questions, and I can log on, answer what did Angela Duckworth learn from her 7th graders regarding their work and the IQ score. So Duckworth learned that, and then type in your answers. Once you are done, you will click Submit. And then it is done, and that is your task for the week. Okay, so if there are any questions about Thrivist, please let me know. So we have about 15 minutes before your next session starts. Again, I'm not sure if all of your classes are meeting how we're meeting. or if you guys are just doing asynchronous work, but I do want to give you guys a little bit of extra time to meet with them. So I'm going to stop presenting, kind of see if I can get myself pulled